Seamus Bruner, Director of Research and Government Accountability Institute, and John Hart, CEO at Open the Books. John, I know it's a popular topic to hate the IRS, and we'll all get audited now, but realistically getting rid of it, it will almost cause them to have to simplify the tax code, no?
No, I think that's true. And Carl, it's actually a lot worse than even what you described. So the IRS has not only been figuratively weaponized, but literally weaponized. Since 2006, we've spent $35 million on guns, military-style equipment, and ammo at the IRS. So we have more agents at the IRS than a lot of major cities do of police officers. And so what I think DOE should do is not only downsize the staff, but go in and do almost like a cartel-style raid, line up all the guns and ammo and say, what have you been doing with this? Why have you weaponized, again, literally an agency against the American people, and make them explain that.
Yeah, well, you know, Seamus, the other thing, too, is going back to Lois Lerner, the IRS targeted people and tried to remove nonprofit signatories for the sake of political purposes. So, yeah, they have been weaponized. And the fact that a bunch of people that should just be nerds with calculators have a SWAT team doesn't make me feel too happy.
Yeah, exactly right. It's Kafkaesque that we have to live in fear that even if we did the right thing, filed our taxes on time and properly, that they still might get us on some sort of, comma out of place or just upend your life, even if they don't find anything and send you through an audit. So that's terrible. And then, of course, like you said, the problems with the IRS, they always seem to go one way, where either they're targeting conservative groups or they only leak Donald Trump's tax returns, and apparently 400,000 other people's, tax information was improperly handled. I know the journalist Matt Taibbi, when he showed up, the Twitter files journalist, when he showed up to testify on the Twitter files and the FBI corruption, he had IRS agents showing up at his house unannounced. So it always goes one way, the politics here. So it's a great move, but I agree with you, Carl. 7,000 agents at 110 offices is not nearly enough.
Right. Well, and the other thing, too, is a lot of the people that were in the Trump bubble who didn't do anything wrong in any relation to Trump, they got them for like 10-year-old tax violations that they didn't even know they did wrong. So it is weaponized. You're absolutely right about that. All right. So a major win for the Trump administration on this one, John. A judge has ruled that the CIA can now fire their DEI workers. Like, why this was even a question? It was, but here we are. He can do it now.
Yeah, look, I think, there's going to be a lot of cases and challenges coming up, and it's important to kind of separate these out. So, first of all, we have to back up and say, what is the constitutional crisis in this country? And the crisis is Congress has allowed the creation of this fourth branch of government, this administrative state, over the past 100 years that has consolidated power in the hands of unelected bureaucrats, where they're making laws. The people we elect to make laws are not the ones actually making the laws. We've outsourced that function. So this is an important first step. And DEI is an interesting case because it really violates the Civil Rights Act. So the administration has really solid grounds on that one. They have solid ground on a lot of the spending that relates to foreign aid, because the president traditionally has the power of directing foreign policy. Right. But Congress is going to have to really step up and lock in these savings permanently, because the president is not going to have unilateral authority to do the line item veto, so to speak. That's been ruled unconstitutional. Yeah. So even the conservative Supreme Court is not going to support all of these changes. But a lot of them, yes, they're going to support.
Yeah, no, I think there are some big wins that they've already had and some more coming. But Seamus, remember earlier this week when someone hacked into the monitors and then put this AI-generated video of Trump kissing Elon's feet, which was so weird, by the way. It was that HUD employee has actually been identified. He's been escorted from the building. And, I hope they perp walk this guy.
Yeah, absolutely, Carl. I mean, that was just disturbing, honestly, and the use of the deep fakes. That you can tell it's fake, but you do wonder and worry that when you can't tell the difference. So I think the book should be thrown at this guy.
Yeah, John. As we walk back though into history of the government and through all these things. This is the problem. You have guys doing deep fakes that they think they're immune from, this DEI stuff, this transgender stuff. And all we want, most of us every day, we want to go work for a living. We want to take home as much of our paycheck as possible. But sometime between 1913 and now, the paradigm has shifted. I used to think that the money I made was mine and the money I gave to the government in taxes is what I allowed them to keep. Now the government believes that it's their money and what I take home from my own job is what they allow me to keep. I mean, how did that paradigm paradigm shift in 100 years.
Yeah, well, look, there was a very relentless effort to do that. And I think we have a historic opportunity to really reboot what the founders envisioned in terms of limited government. And transparency is not a two-way street, it's a one-way street. So, Carl, we have the right to inspect the government's checkbook because it's our money. They do not have the right to inspect our checkbook. And the American people have woken up to that, and there's been a revolt. There was a revolt with the Tea Party movement, and now there's even a more focused revolt. And I think there's a unique chance because what we've seen is a political realignment, where back in the 15 years ago when I was working in the Senate, Democrats would demagogue these issues to death, and they would win some of the arguments. Well, they've lost the hearts and minds of voters, and so that there's been a big shift politically, and really the administration and Congress need to work together to lock in these gains long term and to really unwind this massive growth of administrative power that we've seen over the past 100 years.
Seamus, last 30 seconds to you. What do we need to do? What do we need to pass out of Congress to solidify long-term government reductions here?
Well, they need to overturn a lot of the legislation. John's absolutely right that anything that's been appropriated to the agencies and congressionally designated duties must be fulfilled. Trump can't just slash those, so they'll have to overturn all of that. But I do think the time is now with the Supreme Court overturning the Chevron deference last year. It's actually constitutionally mandated that these agencies are not allowed to grow out of control like they have been.
Yeah, well, I hope that this all resonates. Seamus Bruner, John Hart, pleasure.